So guys, we have some good news to talk about. Much development is going on in Congress with the fourth stimulus payments and Social Security benefits as well. So be sure to keep watching this video to find out the most important news about the stimulus checks and the increase to the Social Security benefits, which we all know should be coming in 2022. Because after all, President Biden did promise during his campaign that he would send out more stimulus checks and help out our seniors. Let's see if he keeps his word. Now guys, here it is. Millions of Americans are now at risk of slipping into poverty. This is only temporarily though. It's because Congress just paused the monthly child tax credit payments, and eligible Americans now have just a few days left to claim an extra stimulus check from their state government. And traditionally, everybody, the child tax credit has been a bipartisan issue, with lawmakers on both sides aware of the impact that such a credit would have on the lives of many people. And remember, rather than pass the Build Back Better Act, members of Congress and the Senate debated the issues on television. In fact, millions of families were waiting for another enhanced child tax credit payment, like those received monthly from July to December of this year. So guys, much negotiations is going on. A lot of talk is being made about the fourth stimulus check. And these are highly partisan times, and nearly all Republican lawmakers, and even the Democrats like Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, have publicly supported and said that they will not support several provisions in the Build Back Better bill. And Republicans are also leading the fight against the Build Back Better Act and the child tax credit. But yet, it's Republican states that have disproportionately benefited. According to the Treasury Department, the following states received on average the highest monthly child tax credit. And these are states like Alaska, Idaho, Montana, and even Wyoming. Now guys, each of these states is considered a red state, and yet many Democrats have criticized how Republicans are fighting against the extension of the child tax credit. Now whether this is due to a national recognition or some power grab of some sort, it's difficult to determine why either Manchin or Sinema are so determined to tank the president's infrastructure bill, while simultaneously pushing millions of people into deeper poverty. And this is not a good news. This is not some good information by Congress, and they should definitely do something about this. Now, research did show everybody that Manchin and Sinema's home states will be hit as hard as the rest of the country. And that's West Virginia for Joe Manchin and Arizona of Kyrsten Sinema. Now, if the enhanced child tax credit is not extended, the West Virginia Center on Budget and Policy says around 350,000 children in Manchin's home state are going to be impacted. That includes 50,000 West Virginia kids who will be driven below the poverty line or deeper into poverty. And according to analysis, more than 1 in 5 children in Arizona live in poverty, and 21% of kids are facing hunger. Many people are being affected by this, and with the ongoing crisis still going on, we all know that the fourth stimulus check as well as the child tax credit extension has to be approved very soon. Guys, it's only facts and it must happen. If the enhanced child tax credit were to continue, projections by the Center of Budget and Policy Priorities indicate that childhood poverty would decrease by 45% in the state. Now, in an effort to get the money to the neediest families, Joe Biden extended the child tax credit and lifted the minimum earnings requirement, which is usually in place. Now, previously, everybody before, we all know that a family would only qualify for a child tax credit only if they had the minimum earnings of $2,500. Now, Biden's plan made the child tax credit fully refundable, meaning families could receive the full credit even if they were not required to file their taxes. Now, according to some fight against the continuation of the child tax credit, giving money to low-income families is actually going to remove their incentive to find a job, but I'm not sure if it's correct. And in fact, Columbia University has reported that these fears are unfounded. Researchers report that these fears found that only 6% of families plan to work less or change jobs if monthly child tax credit payments continue. The same researchers also found that the child tax credit could actually cut childhood poverty by 45%. Now, before 2021 comes to an end, everybody, the IRS continues to send out the additional payments that many Americans are entitled to. Now, these are the stimulus checks that everybody's been talking about. It's all over the news. These payments are designed for Americans to catch up on stimulus check money they were entitled to, but did not receive at the time for various reasons. And according to the IRS, the plus-up payments are currently being sent to those who already received a third EIP payment based on a 2019 tax return or information received from the SSA or even Veteran Affairs. But like other paperwork, there is a deadline for making these additional payments. As such, it is a particularly busy time for the IRS. There is also a legislative deadline for plus-up payments of December 31st, and that is just under a week from now. So if you think you qualify and you want your payment processed before this deadline, now it's vital for you to claim your 2020 taxes.
Begin today with a quotation. Quote, "Because this massive accumulation of debt was predicted, because it was foreseeable, because it was unnecessary, because it was the result of willful and reckless disregard for the warnings that were given and for the fundamentals of economic management, I'm voting against the debt limit increase. Now, Madam President, that was then Senator Joe Biden in March of 2006, right before every single Democratic senator voted against raising the debt limit and made a unified Republican government do it alone. Here's another quote. Today's fiscal mess is the inevitable outcome of policies that consistently ignored evidence and experience. My symbolic vote against raising the debt limit would have been a protest of the policies that have brought us to this point and a demand that we change course, end quote. Well, that same speaker, then Senator Biden, 2 years earlier, in 2004, as Senate Republicans have made clear since last July, and as I reminded the President in a letter just this morning, his sentiments then are our sentiments now. His sentiments then are our sentiments now. For the last few weeks, Washington Democrats tried to forget that they lined up to oppose debt limit increases during unified Republican government. They pretended these votes are always bipartisan. Well, that was simply not true. So now our colleagues have moved on to yet another new argument that is equally flimsy. Now, they claim they'd be perfectly happy to handle this responsibility with 51 votes done one way, but they'd rather risk the nation's credit than doing it with 51 votes a slightly different way. Two different ways to achieve 51 votes. I'm not kidding. This is the position they're taking. The President said it today. The reconciliation procedure would be slightly more inconvenient, they said. A few more days, a few more votes they'd rather duck. The Democratic leaders running America are saying with a straight face that the entire U.S. economy should live or die based on the procedural convenience of Washington Democrats. Now, I've got no problem using the party line process over and over and over to spend trillions and transform the country. But now, for this purpose only, they suddenly and mysteriously